And Dan Goldman, I don't think we have the soundbite queued up, but I think Dan Goldman came out and said, oh yeah, Hunter had nothing to do with foreign governments, but Jared Kushner did. That narrative come up?
Again, I'm not going to get into what came up in this interview today, this deposition, but the idea that Jared Kushner did something wrong is ridiculous. I mean, the Trump family that has been investigated more than any family on the planet, and what they've attempted to do to President Trump and been doing to President Trump over the last 7 years is unbelievable. So, again, I don't want to get into that.
After House Republicans finally got Hunter Biden to take part in a deposition behind closed doors, they continue to show their extreme incompetence in selling the investigation as valid. They were frustrated by Democrats' decision to tell the media just how clownish these proceedings were, because their entire plan was to poison voters' sense of reality around it. But Jim Jordan really actually wasn't prepared to answer for the even shadier and more profitable dealings of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. All he had was, it's ridiculous to say he did anything wrong, and the Trump family's been targeted more than anyone else. Okay.
Donald Trump ordered House Republicans to smear President Biden. They tried and tried and tried and failed. But I want to remind everyone about the real White House crime family. Why did Saudi Arabia give Jared Kushner $2 billion, billion with a B, just months after he left the Trump White House? And why did the Saudis spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at Trump properties while he was still the president? We also know that Jared Kushner used his cushy White House job to secure a $100 billion arms deal for Saudi Arabia and did other favors as well. Now, some members of the majority actually agree that this was unethical. And in fact, a few weeks ago, Jared Kushner was asked by a reporter about his grift. He responded, "Are we still really doing this?" Yes, Jared, we are still really doing this. The American people deserve answers. I rise yet again to urge my colleagues across the aisle to answer our calls and subpoena Jared Kushner's companies once and for all.
This topic of Jared Kushner's mostly secretive dealings with the Saudis that resulted in a $2 billion payout seemed to be flying under the radar years after Trump lost his re-election bid. But the extensive plan to convince Americans that the Biden crime family has been wheeling and dealing with foreign entities with no evidence has more people talking about Kushner now, and also digging for some answers.
Jared Kushner did work in the White House. He worked very hard. It's becoming a little less clear what he actually worked hard at, because after he left the White House, he went out and raised $3.1 billion, that's billion with a B, for a private equity fund. And as you pointed out, he's not a private equity guy, he's a real estate guy. So where did this money come from? What we know for a fact is he raised the $3.1 billion. What we also know for a fact is that only about $30 million of it actually came from investors in the United States. All the rest of it is foreign money. And of that foreign money, $2 billion of it came from the Saudis. And not only did it come from the Saudis, but the Public Investment Fund, which is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, from which this money came, the board of it voted against giving the money to Jared, and they were overruled by MBS, who said, give him the $2 billion. I've been in this business 40 years. I have never seen someone get $2 billion out of $3 billion, get 2/3 of their money from a single investor. Usually a single investor might be a few percent of the fund, might be 5%, occasionally 10%. Never seen this.
It's wild. If nothing else, their relentless pursuit of campaign material for Trump may result in Americans that were actually listening to their countless appearances on cable news to stop and realize that, wait, this sounds even worse. It's why Jim Jordan doesn't want to talk about it. And from the way that the former president tends to talk about Jared, he may not want much to do with defending him.
This guy named Van Jones, you know Van Jones? He works for CNN, so nobody watches. But he came to my office along with a few other people. He was brought in by my very brilliant son-in-law, Jared, who's probably liberal, but I don't want to talk about it. A brilliant student from Harvard, probably liberal, but anyway.
I noticed it during the administration, and it's really odd. While Ivanka and Jared casually hung around and generally kept quiet in the middle of all of Trump's chaotic actions, they seemed mostly there for the opportunities, which might not have sat well with the loyalty-obsessed president. And one of his closest advisors has similar negative feelings that she might have accidentally revealed back when very few people were even asking questions about Kushner's billions.
The congressman from Maryland who's on the committee, he's saying, why aren't we investigating the Trump accounting firms? Or why don't you look into things like Jared Kushner getting $2 billion directly from the Saudis after former President Trump bragged about protecting the Saudi prince?
Well, Jared, of course, is the only person I think who's benefited in the billions with a B from the Trump presidency, that's for sure.
In the billions with a B. In the billions with a B.